Hello and welcome to this special session of Groundbreakers Live. I'm your host Javed Mohammed, and I'm very honored to have with us Rob Richardson, who is a software craftsman as well as an organizer of the AZ DevCamp. Rob, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
I'm really enjoying looking at the bay behind you. It's a great view.
Yeah. It's a feature of Zoom. I'm not quite as close to it, about 50 miles from here. So,
there you go.
So I was looking at your introduction, and I think you've got a very rich background. But I like, first of all, the craftsman, and I think the world that we live in, there's not too much of that. So how did you become a software craftsman?
I really like to focus on building high quality things, very durable things. And it's about understanding my audience and really getting into the mindset of my users, and then building software that'll work really intuitively and effectively and durably that way. As part of honing my craft, it's about building really, really good software for people. Good not just in the technical execution, but good also in solving the business problems in elegant ways.
Okay. And the AZ DevCamp, I think, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, AZ DevCamp is a weekend hackathon. We build software for charities that couldn't otherwise afford software services. We start building software for them Friday after work. Sunday afternoon, deliver that completed software back to the charities. Sleep is optional, provided.
It's a very noble cause.
Is our 10th year in Phoenix, and so that will be really, really fun.
Great. Well, that's really noble work. So the reason we're doing this call this way is because Dev.Next got postponed till fall. So I thought we'd kind of touch upon some of the highlights that you will be doing in your presentation. So the title of your talk was Database DevOps with Containers. A lot of these. So talk to me a little bit about it. So DevOps, I think most of us have a basic concept of the CI/CD pipeline. Containers we kind of get. How does database kind of give us the 30,000 foot view? So
yeah, what's really cool with a DevOps pipeline is we'll typically start with a customer concern on one side. We'll do some tasks. We'll have a source code system. A developer will check out that content from a source code system. They'll build that feature for a time. Once they finish, they'll check that content into a source control system. The build server will kick off and build the software that might get deployed to a pre-prod environment. Then QA may test it. Eventually, when they validate it, they'll will identify that it's good to go to production. We'll deliver it to production, and then ultimately customers are able to gain value from that. And that's kind of our typical DevOps pipeline. What's really cool about the way I just explained it is there's a customer over here, and there's a customer over here. And that's really why we're doing it. We're building customer-centric features. So, if we understand that this is developing this content for this user, then I think that ends up building a really elegant pipeline for us. What's interesting then is that that's kind of our typical pipeline for applications. But my first question in my presentation is, where's the master copy?
And the answer is?
Probably this source control system right here. The cool part is we can check out that content from the source control system. We can rebuild it. We can push that to the pre-prod environment. We can push that to the QA. They can validate it. We can set it off and put it into production, which is great for applications. Turning that on its head, where's the master copy for databases? Well, what if we check out that content and then we walk its way through and we then push the new schema, dropping the production database? It turns out customers really don't like it when their data just magically disappears. So when we're building a DevOps pipeline for databases, we need to start with production. That's the master copy of our content.
Okay.
And so what's cool about this talk is using that as our master copy. How do we get production data into these other environments, pre-prod, into the environment the build server can use, and ultimately into developers' hands in ways that make this content safe?
Okay.
That's where I dig into doing that. And one of the things that makes that really effective is to do that in containers. Developers are probably already using containers for building their applications, perhaps only in Dev.Next, perhaps only in production, but they're using containers anyway. So putting the database into containers as well allows a developer to fire up exactly the environment they want without having a DBA sitting on their shoulder going, oh, no, that's the right option for SQL Server, or don't install that component, we don't need it, or all of those pieces of configuration just go away because containers contain all of those pieces just straight out of the gate.
So
I Docker, I stand up my database and away it goes.
So I think you touched upon a very important keyword when you were speaking. You talked about moving data safely, and especially when you talk about production data, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's like, wait, you want me to get production data into developers' hands? These are what data breaches are made from. We want to get that data from production into developers' hands, but we need to do so safely. With each step, we need to anonymize, sanitize, and shrink that data to make it appropriate for each environment. Mm-hmm. In the case of a production restore from disaster recovery, we want to do none of those things. We don't want to change content. We don't want to invalidate secrets. We don't want to make the data. We don't want to delete data. In a production disaster recovery scenario, we just restore the database backup. But in a developer's hands, we want to anonymize things. We want to probably change customer details, definitely change customer email addresses. If I'm testing the email function, contact all our customers.
Just a question on that. So the reason you want to anonymize is this to kind of conform to state and federal regulations? Is that what we're talking about? Or
yeah, definitely. Both to protect developers from accidentally contacting customers, but also to protect customers' privacy. HIPAA concerns, PCI concerns, GDPR. We'll want to anonymize that data enough that we're not exposing our customers to our developers.
Okay. So that's the anonymize and the sanitize part. What about the shrinking part? What's the deal with that?
Yeah. With sanitizing, we want to remove production secrets. So API keys, connection strings, usernames and passwords, those things that are in production, we probably don't want to expose to developers outside of production. So we'll switch those with developer safe credentials.
Okay.
And then shrinking, a developer's laptop probably isn't as powerful as the production environment. So we want to delete some data. We want to make the database smaller. Now it's easy to just say, okay, so delete everything older than 2 weeks. But we really want to be careful as we delete stuff because we want the weirdness that is production data to impact developers as they're doing development. If query runs slow on my laptop, it'll likely run slow in production as well. So if we can get data as weird as production, then that's a really big asset for developers in producing high quality software.
All right. Well, it sounds like database DevOps with containers. It sounds like a fascinating presentation. And I look forward to it. And I hope the folks out there who are watching this will have a chance to see you in 3D once the conference takes place later on in the year. So, Rob,
it's really cool. We fire up a Docker container with a SQL script and using the SQL Server on Linux container. And so, we're live coding that content and firing it up on stage. And then we'll connect to it with the with SQL Management Studio or Azure Data Studio in the way that you normally do. It's a database to all intents and purposes.
All right. Well, Rob, once again, thank you so much for giving us your time and all the best.
Most definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.